Detective Rogerson from the Armed Hold-Up Squad.
Sorry?
Detective Rogerson from the Armed Hold-Up Squad.
What was Warren's reaction when he found that?
Fear.
Why?
Detective Rogerson has a reputation as being a very evil man. He's thought by... There are a lot of criminals in Sydney who are, you know, people who don't frighten easily, who are really frightened of Detective Rogerson.
Had Warren had dealings with Detective Rogerson before?
Not as far as I know, no. Well, he knew Sergeant Rogerson was involved in armed robberies. He knew that Detective Rogerson supplied drugs. Well, it was a large heroin deal. That he supplied heroin to Parramatta Jail.
He supplied heroin to Parramatta Jail?
That's right. Seems pretty incredible, doesn't it?
But you know, anyone watching this would say, right, here's a man whom society might well call a thug, for want of a better word, pointing a finger at a member of the police force, saying that he's a major dealer in heroin, saying that he supplies Parramatta Jail with heroin. Why should anyone believe Warren?
Because Warren was murdered by Sergeant Rogerson, a Detective Rogerson, under extremely suspicious circumstances. I mean, I don't have any hard, cold proof. But surely, you know, that's something that's got to be done.
Let's come to that in a moment. Let's backtrack a little bit. So he hears that the man involved, the man he's ripped off, is this policeman. And he's frightened. What happens then?
Terrified.
Terrified. What happens then? Does he run?
We went into hiding. Look, Warren thought that Detective Rogerson was going to kill him.
Why did he think that?
Because $37,000 is a lot of money.
Was he
to
told?
Anybody.
Was he told that?
Oh, of course. I mean, we got messages. We got a message from Parramatta Jail that Rogerson was going to kill him. Not only from Parramatta Jail, we got messages from different people in the criminal world. He let it be known.
And you obviously believe those if you shifted from house to house.
Well, of course.
So what happened then? What's the next step?
Well, we knew that Detective Rogerson might possibly do business with us. First of all, we see a report in the paper that Warren's wanted for questioning for the attempted murder of a policeman, which Warren didn't do, and several supposed bank robberies. That's when we really got worried.
What are you saying, that you thought you were being set up?
That's right. We knew we were being set up. I mean, it was clearly obvious. Warren didn't need to do bank robberies. The heroin business is a very lucrative thing.
Why couldn't Warren simply say, I've made a terrible mistake, here's the $37,000 back?
Because we were terrified. Detective Rogerson has a reputation as being a killer. In fact, Warren was so terrified, he went and bought himself a gun and used to sleep with it next to the bed, because we were terrified that Rogerson was going to find out where we were and come in and kill us both in our bed.
Had Warren carried a gun before?
Never. Never to my knowledge. I never saw Warren with a gun until that newspaper article where he was accused of attempting to murder a policeman.
So how did you feel on the Thursday before Warren was shot when word came back that a meeting had been arranged, that things could be worked out with the policeman?
Initially, we were really relieved. Warren particularly was relieved. We, through an intermediary who has done business with Rogerson before, we had him contact Rogerson and put it to him that we were prepared to pay him whatever he wanted to leave us alone. Initially, we were pretty pleased. You know, I mean, it's a terrible thing to think that the police are out to kill you.
Now, you weren't being overly dramatic in that. You weren't exaggerating the situation.
No, certainly not. I mean, as I said before, there are criminals in Sydney, heavy criminals, people who are not scared of anybody except Detective Rogerson.
So Thursday, Warren comes home. What's he saying?
You won't believe it. Rogerson's going to do business with us.
How much?
He wanted $30,000. At that stage, actually Thursday night, we didn't know how much he wanted. All he'd said was he'd do business. It wasn't until Friday that Warren went out, saw the intermediaries, and Rogerson asked us for $30,000. He wanted $10,000 immediately. Then he was going to show Warren a robbery.
Show Warren a robbery. What does that mean?
Well, he was going to show Warren
How to carry out a robbery?
a robbery he could do with all the inside information.
The policeman was going to show Warren how to do a robbery.
That's right. He wanted, well, we didn't have the $30,000. In fact, we had to borrow most of the $10,000. The robbery was so that Warren could pay Rogerson the balance of the $30,000, plus he wanted a cut of the proceeds from the robbery.
Or a percentage of the proceeds?
That's right.
Right. So what happened then? You learned that on Friday. On Saturday, a meeting's arranged?
On Saturday, a meeting's arranged at 10:30 in the morning. Warren's picked up at 10:30 in the morning by one of the intermediaries. He's taken to another intermediary, the guy who did direct business with Rogerson, who's spoken to him that morning, and a time and a place. Warren was then told a time and a place that he could meet him.
That would be Chippendale, in a back lane.
No. Warren was originally told that Rogerson wanted to see him in a car park under a block of flats at Redfern. Now, by Saturday morning, Warren was starting to get a bit dubious about the whole situation. I mean, you know, we were really scared for our lives. And he would frisk Rogerson so that both of them could see that neither of them had a gun. They'd meet, talk. Warren would hand him the $10,000. He would tell him about the robbery.
The policeman would tell him about the robbery.
That's right. And also, apparently Rogerson wanted Warren to, after he'd done the robbery and got the money, Rogerson wanted the money left in the hands of a solicitor, and he wanted him to be charged with the attempted murder because they'd already got up in court and said they were looking for him. It was on record. The agreement was that Warren goes to jail for 2 weeks so that it doesn't look suspicious. He gets out on bail after 2 weeks. The case goes on for, 10 months, 18 months, and then it's dismissed for lack of evidence.
Now, the attempted murder was the robbery, let's get the details on it, the robbery that had been reported in the newspaper, at which time it was reported that they were also looking for Warren. Right, okay.
Right.
All right. What did you think at this stage? I mean, you've been scared for 4 or 5 weeks, terrified, your words. Suddenly, there's a deal arranged. Did it ring true?
No, I was terrified. I couldn't understand why Rogerson would take $30,000 when we'd already taken $37,000 off him.
Did you say that to Warren?
Yes. But Warren felt that he could trust his friends, that Rogerson wouldn't have a gun. And also Warren said to me that Rogerson had never welched on a business deal before. Apparently, there were 2 policemen drinking in a hotel opposite that lane, besides Rogerson and one other policeman. They were drinking in the hotel. Someone drove past and saw Warren walking up the lane, lifting his jumper to show that he was unarmed. Detective Rogerson also lifted his jumper or opened his coat. I'm not really sure. I know that he apparently, was showing that he was supposedly also unarmed. Apparently, the 2 policemen in the hotel had just had a beer and ordered another one. As their beers arrived, they saw Warren, ran out of the hotel and fired at him, hurting him, frightening towards Rogerson, which is where Warren, so I've been told, ran, thinking that Rogerson was unarmed. There are witnesses who have signed affidavits to say there were more than 2 shots. Apparently, the last 2 shots, which killed Warren, were some time apart. Warren ran towards Detective Rogerson. Another detective jumped out from behind a derelict building, a roller door, and shot Warren in the chest. They picked his body up, took him round the corner, and that's when Detective Rogerson shot him in the head at close range.
Now, they're extremely grave charges, aren't they?
Extremely grave.
You've already said that Warren was terrified. He had been terrified from the moment he discovered what he was up against. Why couldn't he have gone down there spooked, frightened, taken a gun that you didn't know about, and aimed the gun at Detective Sergeant Rogerson, as is claimed, and been shot in the course of duty? Why couldn't that happen?
Warren took that money to pay Detective Rogerson.
But when he got there, he saw that there was more than one policeman.
No.
He thought that once again he was being set up.
He only saw Detective Rogerson. The other detectives were in the hotel, unseen to Warren. The detective who fired the first shot was hiding in a burnt-out building behind a roller door.
Why would Detective Sergeant Rogerson want to kill him at that stage if all he's going to get is $10,000 as against the $30,000 that he'd been promised?
I suppose as a warning.
It's a pretty solid warning.
It's the best kind of warning, I suppose. There'll be a lot of... He murdered Warren.
But
I
he's
don't
out.
suppose that anybody else will take the risk of doing what Warren did.
But he's already out $20,000 from Warren, and maybe more if he initially lost $37,000.
Well, I suppose if he hadn't murdered Warren, he could have been out a lot of more money. Through other people doing the same thing that Warren did, ripping off his dealers.
Was Warren jumpy when he left?
See, Warren knew too much. Warren knew too much about Detective Rogerson and his involvement in organised crime.
But you say he'd never spoken of him. You don't know whether Warren ever met him before.
Oh, Warren often spoke of Detective Rogerson.
Did he?
He often spoke about the amount of jewellery that Detective Rogerson wears and the lifestyle he leads, and the fact that he supplies a lot of heroin to a lot of people, and that he arranges armed robberies. I know there are people watching this who are just not going to believe this.
And in broad daylight, on a Saturday afternoon, a detective sergeant executes a man. That's what you're saying.
That's right. He'd murdered him in broad daylight and thought that he could get away with it, as he's probably got away with it before.
You don't know that. You don't know of any other charges. It's only hearsay.
That's only hearsay.
And again, you weren't there. I mean, on this occasion, on the Saturday, last Saturday, you weren't there. It's simply what other people have told you. You believe that there are witnesses.
I know there are witnesses.
When were you told that he'd been killed?
Saturday night, about 8 o'clock. I sat at home, hoping against hope that he was going to come walking through the door, that everything had gone as planned and Warren was just out having a drink, celebrating, if you like. But
6 o'clock had come and gone, hadn't it?
well, come and gone, long gone. And I was told that Warren had been murdered.
Now, you say murdered, I mean, you were told he'd been shot.
No, I was told that Warren had been murdered. And I knew that he'd been murdered.
That's not the way Australians read it on Sunday morning in the newspapers.
Unfortunately, a lot of what Australians read in the newspapers is what the police allow them to read. People find it very hard to conceive that upstanding, upright members of our police force are corrupt. They don't want to believe it. It doesn't make you feel very protected. And most people just can't conceive of it.
If what you say is right, and you were frightened before Warren was killed, you have every reason to be terrified right now.
I've been in hiding since Warren's death. I'm quite sure that the police would probably kill me.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.